So what today's discussion really is about, and me and Jason will tie in on this across the evening, but we're looking at how do you build strength and power for the GAA player, why it's important more than why do we do what we do, and what benefit has it for the players. But then I'll touch on it at the end of my presentation, but it'll really lead into Jason's presentation as to how we do what we do. And I think at the moment now, strength and conditioning, performance, physical performance is very much at the forefront of every sport. And like Jack had mentioned there, and Jason's background and my background, I've had the pleasure of being part of huge clubs and having great facilities, but actually facilities aren't everything. It's the people and the culture around what you're trying to achieve is more important than any facility or any budget. So I hope we can get that across tonight. So um, who is Paudie? Well, Jack quite rightly pointed out who I am there. I'm a native of Tipperary, and sadly, as a tip man, we've not got much to shout about this year. But yeah, currently running my own company as a performance specialist, living in the south of France. But before that, 13 years at Arsenal, 8 years at Irish Rugby. Before that, I worked in UCC Mardyke Arena, looked after all the GA teams there, male and female, and several different sports. So strength and power has been kind of at the forefront of all of my practice throughout the last 20 years across all age groups, including youth development, male, female, and adults. So basically, we know what this is, and but it gets caught up in linguistics. So what is strength and what is power? So strength is basically how much force you can produce. So how much force you can produce, and then power is how quickly you produce that force. And these two go hand in hand, and they're interlinked physiologically and physically, but actually sometimes they're misunderstood because you can be very strong, but you might not have a lot of power. You can have a lot of power, but not be very strong. I've had lots of athletes who've been very, very powerful. They're so quick. They can jump off the floor 60 inches, but then they keep breaking down because they're not strong enough. And then I've had athletes who are very strong, but they can't express that strength quickly. So how do we develop those qualities, and why are they important? So what does strength do for a GA player? So why is strength important for a GA player? Like, say the average midfielder now in hurling, football, camogie, they're covering 10, 11, 12, depends on the level, 13 kilometers a game. And they're going, okay, why do you need to be strong? Why do I need to spend time in the gym, or why do I need to work on my balance, my coordination, my single leg isometric strength? Well, strength allows you to win physical contests. So like it's a contact sport. Camogie, hurling, football are contact sports. Lots of tackles, shoulder challenges, and breaking through contact. And I think this is the key for Gaelic Games players, is that breaking the contact, creating space by breaking the contact. And if you're breaking the contact, you're gaining yards and meters, but more importantly, you're drawing defenders away and creating space for other players. And I think that's very evident in the modern game. The ability to hold off opponents and maintain balance. Balance is key here, that you're able to maintain balance under stress. You can jump and compete for high balls. If you're not strong or not powerful, you can't jump and compete for high balls. And actually, you'll see some of the best jumpers in the game are not always the tallest. It's just that they time it correctly, or they've got the strength and power to time it correctly. The big one here, the big one for strength and power for me as a performance coach for 20 years is reducing injuries and the injury risk. A player that's not available to the coach is no good. So our job as performance coaches, I don't get a bonus or a medal if my player gets stronger in the gym and he or she can jump higher on the tests. If he's not playing, if he's not available for the coach to play the game or play the sport or participate in training, then I've failed. My job is to make sure that we're reducing injuries as much as we can through strength and power training, but more importantly, that they're available to the coach. The reason they play the game is to play the game. So my biggest role, I am happier if my players are available to the coach every game, but are not getting better in the gym. They're maintaining their strength and power, but are not pushing numbers in the gym or on the pitch or speed. My job is to make sure they're on the pitch all the time. And by getting them strong and powerful, or maintaining that strength and power, particularly during fixture congestions. That's the key. That's the key quality of our job. And then body control and stability throughout the match. So when the body is tired. So what physiologically, and you don't have to be sports scientists on this call, you don't have to have PhDs or have any background in this, but it's been proven and it's underpinned for years and years and years of science and physiology. If you're strong, you recover quickly, or quicker than if you're not strong. So aerobically, it's an aerobic game and an anaerobic game, football, hurling, camogie, or anaerobic and aerobic games. But if you're able to ride off challenges, break contact, and maintain good body control because you're stronger throughout the game, then your posture, your ability to make decisions later in the game is at a higher level. And that's been proven time and time again. And then if we look at, so why is strength and power important for it? Well, acceleration. Sorry, skip that out. Well, acceleration. It's an acceleration game. You accelerate through contact. You accelerate and you stop. You decelerate to receive a ball or try and stop an opponent. Then jumping. You have to get off the ground. Single leg, double leg. You have to get off the ground to receive the ball, to break a challenge. Sometimes you have to get off the ground to make a challenge. Change of direction, COD. It's not fish and chips COD now. This is change of direction. It's just a fancy word for change of direction. If you're not strong, you can't push off left. You can't push off right. You don't have that muscular control and that muscular strength to push your body left and right. And remember, when we talk about strength, every time you sprint, every time an athlete, a Gaelic Games athlete, puts their foot into the ground, they're absorbing about 6 to 7 times their body weight in that foot, in that leg, in single leg, right? And if they're not strong, they'll get fatigued quicker throughout the game. Their change direction will slow down. Their jumping ability will slow down. Number 4, explosive tackles. It's an explosive game. Yes, it's played over big distances with lots of meterage, but if you look at the game under a microscope in the small areas, the battles that are won in the small areas on the pitch, they're explosive tackles. They're breaking the tackle or making the tackle, more importantly. And the difference between being strong and explosive might be a second too late or a second too early, where you missed a tackle or you've got injured from the tackle because you weren't ready. Kicking and striking, if you're strong and powerful, you can kick the ball further, you can strike the ball further. It's a given in any sport now. And then sprinting and standing. Explosive movements generally come from a slow or a static start. It's like you're the corner forward, you're idle for a couple of minutes of the game, and now suddenly the ball's landed the length of the pitch towards you, and you have to go out and get that ball from a standing start or from a low moving start, a slow standing start. You're not getting time to build up to that speed. Well, then that's where power and strength is really important for that position, that player. More importantly in all this is a thing called robustness. Now, this is a term in strength and conditioning performance that's thrown around. And what is robustness? Well, robustness isn't just about physical performance. It's the intrinsic strength and structural integrity of a person, material, system. So basically, robustness is the ability of the player to withstand the demands of the game, the demands of training, and go again. That's how I would describe robustness. That player has not only survived the game, they've performed within the game, but more importantly, they didn't get injured and are able to go to the next game and go again and again and again. And what wins championships and what wins trophies is availability and robustness. Having players that can withstand the demands of the game, whatever level that is. And any of the coaches on here tonight that are working with younger players or the youth players, like you might have a 14, 15-year-old playing 16s, minors, even seniors or juniors. Like, is that young person, male or female, ready to withstand? Have they got robustness to withstand the demands of that game? Equally, they might be playing for their school today or their college today and then playing for the club at the weekend. So they're playing different levels and different positions. And that's what robustness is the ability to have longevity and stability in really harsh conditions. And the game is harsh. The game is chaos. So then performance robustness is another term. So if you look at robustness as a whole, it's the ability to withstand pressure and ride the pressure, if you want a better word. But can you perform consistently across the season? Can you avoid injuries or recover quickly? So I mentioned strength and power there as being very important for avoiding injuries, but also for recovery. So that we all talk about recovery and freshness. For me, in my time in elite sport, I've got a triangle. I call it the triangle of recovery. And people talk about ice baths, and I know I'm going off topic now, but it's on topic. We talk about ice baths, plunge pools, recovery legs, massage, food. For me, the triangle of recovery is nutrition, fitness, and sleep. So if you're not fit or strong, you'll never recover. It doesn't matter how well you sleep or how what kind of food you're getting in. If you're not fit, you won't recover. So if you're not strong or powerful, you'll recover slowly. Number three there, adapt to varying intensities, opponents, and stressors. Well, performance robustness is physical and mental. You could be playing minor county at the moment, and then you might end up playing club senior 3 days later in a final. And what does that look like for you as a player, physically and mentally? And that's where being strong and being fit and being healthy, you know you've got your work done and you know that you've put in the hours or you've put in the work. So then for me, mentally, you go, okay, well, whatever's thrown at me today, I think I'm ready because I've done the work. And then number four, you maintain high standards under fatigue, pressure, and setbacks. So you're 3 points down with 2 minutes to go, and you notice that your opponent, the person you're man marking, their legs are gone. Can you take advantage of that? But more importantly, how can you help your team when you're under pressure, fatigue, and with setbacks in the middle of a game? That's the big thing here, being strong and powerful. You've got a better chance of finishing strong and finishing late, rather than starting very strong and then emptying the tank, and by three quarters of the game in, you're empty and you've got nothing left. And that can be the difference between winning and losing, is that last couple of minutes, that last quarter of the game. And any sport I've worked in, any of the top managers I've worked with, coaches, they always break every game into quarters. And it's the final quarter is the one that matters, whether you're losing or drawing or winning. And being fit and being strong and powerful can really determine how that ends, with a bit of luck, of course. And then you need to look at, what are we looking at in regards to strength and power for physical development, game day, and injury recovery? Sorry, this is stopping here for me now. Sorry. So basically, physical development without game day fatigue. So if you're stronger, I keep mentioning you recover quicker, and you do. So game day fatigue is a big problem for developing strength and power in season. So that's why the off season here, we're talking about the off season program here. Phase one is the different phases of strength and power development. So strength and power development is an all season thing. It's not I'll do it all in the off season now when hurling's finished or football's finished or camogie's finished, and then I'll come back, I'll be strong as a bull, and then once hurling starts, it'll be hurling, or football. Strength, power, and speed, and Jason will attest to these qualities. They're the hardest qualities to develop, and they're the quickest qualities to diminish. So fitness is, for me, I always equate fitness, aerobic fitness, anaerobic fitness. To get fit is just hard work, right? You can come back unfit to pre-season. You bust a gut for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, you'll be fitter. If you want to get faster or more powerful, you can bust a gut for 4, 5, 6 weeks, and you might not see a change instantly, because those qualities are very neuromuscular, nervous system, muscle fiber conditioning and changing. They require time. So the off season is a very, very important time for young players and all players to develop strength and power. And I've seen it been done very wrong, and people get it wrong in off season in lots of sports I've worked with, where they go to the gym, hit the gym hard, men and women, and they end up putting on a bit of bulk, and it's not the right type of strength and power they've done. And now they're carrying a bit of extra timber that's got no use on the pitch. So in the off season, you can develop physically because you've not got that game day fatigue. You're not getting ready for a game. It's a time to really work on injury prevention and recovery. So any injuries you picked up in the previous season, great time to get them under control or get recovery under control. It's a great time to improve skills. Like if you can strike off your left well, maybe it's a time in the off season to practice striking off your left well. So I'm not just talking about strength and power. I'm talking about the purposes of off season, pre-season, in season training. Great time to learn more tactics and team cohesion. So the off season might be, okay, we finished badly this year, lads. How are we going to regroup and go again next year? So you might come together as a team in the off season in small groups, or if you're playing inter-county and you're back in your home club, it might be a good chance in your home club to get back with your mates, back to where it started, start learning a bit more about tactical and team cohesion. It's a great time to mentally refresh and start motivation again. It's you having the demands of pressure of a competition, and you must perform every week in a game or twice a week in a game. And it's a great chance to build your fitness base for the season. The off season is so important to get a break and change training and not have that structure and the pressure of getting to train every night after work or getting traveling across the country to train with the inter-county team. And it's a great opportunity as well for personalized training, where you can just work on you as an individual outside of the group to be better when you go back into the group. That's the key here, is that you as an individual, the team is, it's several individuals coming together with cohesion. Then the pre-season, it's a great chance, obviously, to build physical fitness foundations and a gradual step in loading. So you're stepping up the loading across a number of weeks, getting ready for championship, or you're getting ready for playoffs or whatever. If you've done the work in the off season, it's a great chance to continue to reduce injury risk. The reduce injury risk is in there all year round, really, for me. And that's why your strength and power is very important. Again, develop team tactics cohesion, reinforce the technical skills you've practiced in the off season with now back in the team setting. Time to build mental toughness and focus. You have time now you've not got games coming up for a while in the pre-season. You've got a chance now to really start building that mental focus and that mental toughness and building good practices. And Jason will talk about this more now in a minute, but that's a great chance in the pre-season to build a strong environment where you're a team of individuals working together for the team, and you're creating that environment and that high performance mindset. And that doesn't matter if you're an under 13 or a senior inter-county player. It's the environment that you work in is so important to success and enjoyment. At the end of the day, it's enjoyment. Great chance in pre-season to establish culture and expectations. It's a chance to run fitness testing and monitoring if you have the opportunity to do that and the resources to do that. More importantly, it's pre-season. It's time to improve confidence. You've come back, okay, you might have had a good season or not a good season. Now is a chance to really build confidence and get your players together, get them together as a group and build that environment and the culture. And then the in-season. Well, once you start kicking off, once you start playing games, like you're looking at tactical and technical refinement. That's the work is done then with regards to development, and it's now about maintenance, and it's about injury risk reduction, and it's about robustness and maintaining the robustness. And tactical and technical refinement, the coach now is key here. This is where you're getting your tactics and technical work right to beat the opponent. A periodized week structure, it might be inter-county or a club team. You can still have a little structure in a week where you're working on different things across the week, getting ready for the games. It's really important to balance training load and recovery now when you're playing games. That's the big thing. And if you haven't got that strength and power base coming into that part of the year, like training load then can spike and you might not recover. So you have to be really, really key on that. It's time to prioritize recovery strategies. So if you're an amateur player or if you're club player and you're going, okay, well, we want to give it a real shot for the club this year. Well, my recovery strategies this week might be, well, I'm going to go to bed a bit earlier. I'm going to eat the right foods a little bit better this week so that I get recovery, so that we can perform at the weekend. Great chance to maintain your physical qualities, to build robustness across the season. And it is really about injury management, return to play, making sure that you're keeping those niggly injuries away. You're looking after yourself between sessions. And a big one for strength power development is nutrition and energy management. If you're not fueling the body with the right things, then you'll never get strong and powerful. Muscle, bone, connective tissue need fuel. They need fuel to grow, and they need fuel to be maintained. And then the psychosocial considerations across the season is a big thing for me with strength and power development and physical performances. How are you behaving in the off season, pre-season, and in season, particularly if you're playing across different codes and different clubs? How is that affecting your preparedness each time? So, are you have you to wear a hurling hat one day and then the football hat the next day? Club, county, college, club, school club. playing up and down between different ages. So it's very important that those considerations are just you're considering them as a coach and as a player. So as a coach on this call tonight, if you're a technical coach or a performance coach, and if the player's coming into you today for training, as a coach, you'll be conscious of your training and your training session to make sure it flows right. You're getting what you need from it physically, technically, tactically. But you also have to kind of think nowadays about what's coming into me. Where's that person coming from? Are they coming from school, from the club, from another training session? What did their day look like? And just a little conversation in the car park, I find, can be hugely valuable for load management, because we go back to the top tier there, number 3, balance between training, load, and recovery. That might be a day where you go, okay, you look a bit tired today. What did you do in school? Oh, well, I was in school today. I played at a hurling match in school today. Okay, well, how are you feeling? I'm good. Did you fuel enough? Yeah, I'm good. Okay, well, we can continue with training. Or you might go, okay, you're going to skip out on the end of the session today where we're doing the games, but you're going to do a little bit extra mobility, stretching or whatever to make sure you're recovering well. So just little things to consider when we're looking at strength and power across a season. And then what does this look like then? Everyone, unfortunately, strength, power, speed, I said, are high attainable qualities that need a lot of work. But you don't need 3 45-minute sessions a week in a gym. You don't need expensive equipment, and now it helps, really does help if you've got access to that. But what you need is consistency. Strength and power are physical qualities that need to be worked on consistently, or you lose them. Fitness is much easier. Aerobic fitness, anaerobic fitness is much easier to maintain and to top up, whereas strength and power needs a little bit more work. And you're better off with small hits in the week than doing a whole off season of 6, 7, 8 weeks hammering the strength power work, and then suddenly you stop because you start games and you're between codes. You lose those qualities pretty quickly, and it's very important that we just keep an eye on those things. And as you can see there from the screenshot from RYPT here, it's a simple thing. Plyometrics take 10 minutes. Injury prevention might take 15 minutes before training. And you can go a long way towards maintaining those strength, power, speed qualities by doing little hits in the week. So what does that look like? And this is from some female GAA players I've worked with in my own county, in Ballybacon, Grange, Artfinnan, Tipperary, if anyone knows it. Now, what you'll see here is this is all body weight stuff. This might look easy. This might look like it's slow, but these are young female athletes learning how to balance, how to stop, how to start. For them, this is strength. For them, this is power. And for some of the older lads that you might be training, if you're training a men's team or a boys' team, they might think they're powerful, they might think they're strong, and they hit the gym, but they won't be able to do some of this work unless they practice it. So this is an example of what you could do on a pitch, for instance, for 10 to 15 minutes before a training session. So the first video there, we're teaching them to stop, decelerate, and move again. That takes strength. That takes the video before this, I haven't it on here. These young girls found that very hard. This looks like it's done slowly. The grass is long and it's wet because it's Tipperary. But that little quality of going into a cone and stopping can teach you braking strength, can teach you deceleration strength. This one, little bit of balance with a football as part of your warm-up. This might look like nothing. Soft knee, you're working on ankle, knee, hamstring strength, quad strength, while you're getting ready for football. This is a little bit of work we do to prevent knee injuries, ankle injuries in the young girls. That's just an example of how you can add it in at the start of a training session. This one then, we're getting a little bit quicker now. Now we're adding a little jump. So can you go in, stop and jump? This might look easy. You should see them when they do this first time round. It looks very difficult because they don't have the strength and power to do it. But over a number of weeks, 10, 15 minutes, we'll look at that again. In you go, stop and jump. That might look like nothing, but try with even a group of experienced men or women, and it'll take them a bit of getting used to. This is a little session we done in the hall where, okay, they don't have gym, they don't have medicine balls, they don't have weights yet. what can we do to encourage young females and young males to do a little bit of balance work, strength work, standing on one leg and moving. So that looks like nothing, but I ask any of you on this call after this to go into your living room, the kitchen, do a reverse lunge into a jump and a land on the same leg. And that'll give you strength, stability, and then when they get better at this, I progress this and it becomes a power exercise because now they're doing it really quickly with intent. So I'm going to hand you over to Jason now. We'll go to questions at the end. But I hope that from this now it informs a little bit more decision making around your own practices, and I'll hand you over to Jason.
Okay, lads. I'm just gonna carry on where Paudie left off there. Basically, yeah, my name's Jason McGahan. I'm High Performance Manager for Kerry GAA. Basically, my role with Kerry GAA is collaborate with managers and the coaches and the service providers to create an optimum training environment whereby every player and team can prepare and perform to their full potential. So basically, it's about building teams within a team, building them support teams, monitoring them support teams, and developing them support teams. As Paudie went through there, he went through the what's, the why, and the when. I'm going to look at the how, and how can we deliver a strength and power program with at our talented level and our elite level, and take you through some of the ideas and pitfalls that we had at the very start. But the how is basically looking at the resources that's available to us, how we're going to deliver the pathway, and then looking at the coaches and then the practical resources that we needed to do that. All right. So basically, the first thing we need to do is we needed to promote a culture of athletic development. By doing that, we had to get this was around educating the athletes, educating the coaches and other stakeholders what the real benefits it is to a well-rounded athletic development program. And then, of course, it's about fostering that positive environment, but looking at how can we have the athletes encouraged and looking at striving to in an environment. So it's about creating that environment that they want to compete and learn and do the work. First of all, we had to look at looking at our coaches, that our S&C coaches, how we're going to get them to deliver the pathway. And once we got the buy-in with the coaches, the S&C coaches, we had to bring in the football coaches. So this is like at the very start in our early years that we had to look at. We got the football coaches in, we got them to do a module in sports science, so we got them to see it, feel it, and do it. So we got them. Once you get the buy-in, then from the football coaches and the managers, we then looked at we looked at then trying to promote an environment where they all can strive. So we started looking at facilities and everything else after that. We then looked at the Gaelic Games pathway, player pathway. This is the pathway in the sports science vision for 2030, which came out in May 2023. So what we did was we concentrated. What we were doing was we were concentrating on the T1, the T2, and the T3 and T4 and the elite level. We found then that when there was a gap appearing, whereas when the athlete was coming into us at the foundation level at F2 or F3, or they just weren't ready to do what we were looking them to do. So we had to come back and kind of look at how we're going to address the gap. So the big thing for us with Kerry GAA, we looked at the coaches, we looked at their coaches, and we looked at trying to go back to educate people that's involved with our players at F1, F2, and F3. And we looked at a diploma in strength and conditioning through the UK Strength and Conditioning Association, which is a trainer award. And then we also looked at the GAA's Youth Athletic Development Level 1 course, which is the F3. So what we did was we collaborated and communicated with a lot of the grassroots sports coaches. We look at parents, a lot more parents, primary school teachers, secondary school teachers, physios, other strength and PT coaches that were working with clubs, and we liaised with clubs, schools, and of course the GAA on delivering these two courses. And basically, what we're looking at, if you haven't looked at the F3 course yet at the minute, but we wanted to try and target as many coaches that at the grassroots that are working with teams that, especially in them early teens at under 12, under 14, right up to under 16s, that they're getting a foundation on, not necessarily need a qualified cert in strength and conditioning, but have got a good foundation of what a strength power program could look like by integrating with a lot of the stuff that Paudie had done there in the field. And you can take a look at, basically, this is one of the very first courses that we ran with ourselves in Kerry GAA. And it was basically working with a lot of clubs. The idea is that we've now got over 75 coaches through the program at F3, with the aim is to have at least one coach through this within every club, and we're very, very close to doing that at the minute. But now we're looking at getting out into the regions of Kerry through north, south, west, and in around East Kerry to try and bring the course to them, that they can actually get more, not just one or two in a club, but trying to get as many parents, sports coaches, that they're competent in actually delivering a good athletic development warm-up. And that then looks at bringing over a whole holistic approach to the player pathway from F1 to F3 to right to T1 to T4 to elite level. So we can start looking at building the program and the pathway that we want for our athletes and players. So the idea and everything behind it is better coaches, better athletes. And basically where I want to go now is basically show you exactly what that kind of looks like from a 14-year-old. There's a 14-year-old coming in at the start, and being able, the big thing for us is, can he move and get into the positions that we want him to get into, and can he hold them positions and then start adding the weight as they go through the development with us, with Kerry. So using some of the more powerful exercises of, snatch, the Olympic lifts, also integrating RYPT into our programs, where that every athlete that comes into the program at 14 can utilize RYPT and see their program in RYPT, can see how that exercise looks like with proper coaching techniques, and then through the pathway, then once they get up to 16, they're actually starting to move and starting to add a bit more weight to it. And again, we're constantly learning RYPT by educating them through training loads, sleep, and a lot of the stuff that Paudie alluded to there earlier, which a lot of that, all that is on RYPT. But basically through their player pathway, once they have that from the start of 14, we start learning it till eventually they get to minor, to 20, and then into senior, that it comes like a player passport with them through RYPT, that they can carry right that through with their strength and power and athletic development. This is then what also then with some of the research, and we can share, I said to Jack, we can share some of the research around the key findings around strength and power, and share some of the literature. But a lot of the research then talks about where can we go with that next, and at the elite level we're looking at suggest combining heavy strength work with explosive exercises, and that a lot of it's called contrast training or complex training, but it produces greater improvements than either method just alone. So we bring that then to another level then when we get the player to say 17, 18, 19, 20, and we start looking at some contrast exercises. And basically the other reason we like contrast is it's bringing that strength element, but also it's also like more or less helping with time as well, with the athlete when they do come into this, that, the program, the strength program doesn't need to be 40 minutes or 45 minutes, that it can be done in 20, 25 minutes and be done pretty quickly. So what does the contrast training look like is something like this gives us a snatch contrast set that some of our younger athletes might do when they hit minor and 20. So you've got a snatch pull, and a lot of them are looking at small derivatives of the Olympic lifts, honed in with more explosive movements. So then 20 seconds rest, then going into like some hurdle jumps, and then followed by something simple as a hang snatch with a lighter load, with maybe slightly more reps. And then once he's mastered that, and then he goes into more, we want a real explosive exercise here at the last to finish off this set where he's doing a hang snatch in the decel. So it's a high decel strength exercise. And then we kind of combine it with maybe an overspeed decel over just 5 or 10 meters with a simple super bond. So it gives us an idea of a simple circuit where then after he finishes the reps here, he takes a 2-minute rest. And in that 2-minute rest, we would like to get the ball in there where it's some hand-eye coordination stuff, and they can get a bit of time to get some skill work done in between them sets. And through doing something like the snatch contrast, then followed by a push press contrast, we've got a couple of sets of that, and that's basically nearly enough a session done, pretty quickly. Give or take, the warm-up might be 5 to 10 minutes, and then the contrast training after that. So this is a simple push press, followed by a 20-second rest into a medicine ball push press through. And then looking at a floor press, dumbbell press, again, just exploding with a lighter weight coming off the floor. And then again, it's just like another, followed by a smaller, explosive, assisted plyometric press up with a band again. So some of the exercises are mirrored with a lot of band work, but again are very, very dynamic, very, very simple. So that gives you an idea of some of the stuff that we would be doing with some of our development squads and younger players and teams. And then, but I'd say then, if you're talking about key program principles for strength and power, we're looking at prioritize quality over volume, build maximal strength before emphasizing high power work, separate heavy load body lifting and matches by at least 48 hours where possible, reduce gym volume during congested fixtures and periods while maintaining intensity, and then individuate loads based on training age and player position. So that takes in a lot there. What we would try and do is the buy-in that we had to try and get from coaches and also the players as well through that last session of the week. Would be a primer session. So we started off doing that 48 hours out from a game, whereas a lot of the players now are buying into the primer and see the benefits of doing that second session, whereas we would have been possibly doing it maybe 20-25 minutes before a pit session, and doing a hybrid session. But that gives you an idea of what kind of we're doing at the talented level and the elite level at the minute with ourselves and Kerry here. I want to thank and acknowledge a few of our coaches, Gil Stevenson from the UK Strength Conditioning, Paudie Murphy, John Barry, and Jamie O'Sullivan. And that's basically Cummy Agat. Thank you. And That's me.
Brilliant, Jason. And thank you very much for that. And thanks as well also, Paudie. That was excellent. Um, made it look and sound very, very simple, which is always the best. So I really encourage participants and coaches that have so kindly joined us here. If you have any questions, pop them into the chat box there, and we can go over and back to Paudie and Jason on the questions. I have a couple of pages of questions here, but I'd rather open it up to the floor as much as possible. We have one question here from Rory. And Rory is asking, in terms of developing buy-in from coaches and clubs, what are your experiences there? And how can you improve the buy-in from an athlete perspective also? So do you want to kick that off, Paudie?
Rory, that's a great question. When I was putting this presentation together, I was thinking, do I give it a little bit of history of strength and conditioning and as it a profession? So everyone has a strength and conditioning coach now. Most clubs would have, or county teams or sports have, but actually it's a very new profession. And now everyone feels like we need a strength and conditioning coach because that's what other teams are doing. How we get buy-in personally from any coach is, first of all, we are support staff. And I mentioned this very early on in my presentation that my job, Jason's job, is to make sure that player is ready to play the game or ready to train. And whether that's strength, power, mobility, stability, or just sometimes you might have a player and they come in and you don't do anything with them. So I think buy-in with the coach is huge. And the big thing there is respect. So the coach has a lot going on in their brains around the game, tactics, championship fixtures, club fixtures, beating this team, beating that team. We're worried about strength, power, speed. So I think it's very important that we understand, one, what they want from the team. First of all, you have to understand, I'm sorry, I'm going around in circles, Jason. First of all, the big one for me, if I join any team right now, it's what is your game model? What is the coach's style of play? How do you want it? Are you an aggressive break in the gain line? Are you breaking tackles? Or are you trying to create space uh, by being better technically? Or, what is your game model? How would you want to play? And then our job is to make sure the players are physically ready to play that style of play. And also, so that's the first thing. You sit with the coach, you go, what's your game model? How do you want to play? What does training look like? What's the week look like for training? Do you like to, backload all the training, heavy training at the start of the week and be fresh going into the game? Or are you happy to do a lot of more technical, tactical, bigger work going into the game? And every coach is different. So the big thing is respect for the coach, respect for the pressure they have, but also then give them what you can give them. And it's a case of, well, this is my philosophy and this is how I want to get your players better. That's how you get buy-in for coaches. And sometimes it goes wrong, sometimes it goes right. I've had in Arsenal alone at 13 years, I had four academy managers with different philosophies, and now their football program is different four times. But I maintained my principles. I just made sure that the coach knew I was there to support their program, and this is my experience, and this is what I want to deliver. But it has to fit with the coach's program, and that doesn't mean you compromise yourself. It just means you have to adapt to that environment, that team. And the next team you go to might be different. The player buy-in, I think the player buy-in for me, is a big one. You it's easy to focus on the good players who want to do it. And when you're really busy and you're tired, it's in the middle of the season and you're winters and pissing down rain, excuse my language, and you're going, oh, lads, I have to go home now after a day's work again, now after training these guys. It's easy focus on the good players, but no, be transparent, consistent with your messages. And actually, the players will follow the players. The players are peer led, by the way. So I always say the greatest motivator for a player is another player. The greatest judge of a player is another player. So if another player goes, oof, he's a baller or she's a baller, then you go, okay, that's the measure. Also, the top players that are top athletes, the younger players go, oof, that's what he does, that's what she does, I need to do this. So that's how I get buy-in. I build trust, I build consistency, and I'm always consistent. I don't care if you're the Kerry captain or an all-star, I'll talk to you the same, and I'll make sure that if you don't do your work, I'll tell you. If you do your work, I'll tell you. And you keep that consistency, for me, is huge. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer, but
Very
Jason.
good.
Good
Excellent.
man, Paudie. No, exactly what Paudie was saying there. Is, again, it's the players buy in. Once the player, you're creating that culture and creating that environment. Once you get them in that environment and get a competitive environment and get them an enjoyment environment, and you're also getting to do things that is challenging. So the big thing is, for what I like to do in the gym, is not often different than you'd want on the field. You want to challenge them physically and mentally. So when they come into the gym, they're being mentally challenged. So when they go to that bar, they have to really think of, right, are my feet in the right position, or I'm in the place to ready to lift the bar from the floor, or am I in a position where I'm going to do a hang clean or a hang pull or a snatch or whatever it is. It's getting them to think. And once you get them to think and you challenge them, and uh, they get through that and enjoy that, and they bring that to it. Then the player kind of drives itself, you know. So the big thing for me is, we'll get them into the gym, get them collective gymming together, and after that, then the next thing goes, right, I've got that. How can we get that second power session in? So we would have done hybrid sessions, whereas we would have done them before a pitch session, and 20, 30 minutes, 25 minutes, 20 minutes out on the pitch then. But the players started to enjoy that as well, and they're getting that hit, and I felt that they were ready to then train. So once you got the players to buy in, it was then the coaches and the managers. The big thing was then I'd get them to see the exercise they're doing, get them to talk through the exercise they're doing. If it is a hang snatch or whatever the young lad was doing there in the development squads, to see it, and I ask what qualities you want in the player when they see that, and they'll be throwing it. Wait, what's he demonstrating? Well, he's demonstrating speed, he's training coordination, he's agility to jump under the bar, he's demonstrating power, he's trunk strength by holding the bar above the head in the bottom position of the overhead snatch or the overhead squat. And it's simple. I goes, well, what qualities you want on a player? And they're the qualities that they want. They want them to be strong. They want them to be fast. They want speed. So the next thing was then to get them to actually feel it and do it. That's why we got them into the gym, got the coaches, got the managers in the gym, so they start to feel it and do it. And once they start feeling that, they're going, geez, that's tougher than what I think. And and it's all about getting them into them positions. So once you get the player enjoying it and enjoying that competitive environment, and then getting the manager to see what they are actually doing and get them to feel it and do it, it's an easy sell then from then on. And from that, then from bringing it to a 20-minute, 25-minute pitch session, before a pitch session, to eventually that's a standalone second session where the boys know it's 25 minutes and they'll do it on a Friday, But even going back to the pitch sessions and the hybrid sessions where we didn't have facilities, we didn't have the center that can, we'd be in the stadium for training. So we had a lot of bands. We would have done a lot of the stuff that Paudie just showed there, like it's a lot of some of the hurdle hops or hurdle jumps, to some of the band work, just to make sure they're getting that bit of strength and bit of hit. It could have been maybe some Copenhagen's after training. It could be banded Nordics. It could be some banded D-cells, all that type of work, just with very little equipment. But again, once you get the buy-in then from the players, they were confident that they'll do that second gym session, that second primer, So hopefully that answered it more for you.
Yeah. So adaptability is important as well, Jason, isn't it? On your environment or where you're training and everything, with facilities and resources.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a question for you, Paudie, around that great word robustness. And it's amazing that I was actually writing down a question on robustness, and then you actually brought up the slide. So my question would be, robustness is very, very important, and you've highlighted that brilliantly. So how do we develop this in training or away from training? How much do we need to do? When do we start? And so we have club coaches here on the line, and they want to build robustness into under 12s, 14s, 15s. How do they start? What's the starting point for them?
That is a great question. That could be a whole webinar series on its own.
Yeah, I understand.
Jack.
Yeah.
No, it's a great question. And robustness is robust. Robustness is, I always see it as robustness is a sea stack that, the waves beat off it for hundreds of years, and it chips away at it and chips away at it and chips away at it and chips away at it, but it remains. Robustness it's a quality, and I've no answer for this. And Jason's got his PhD ahead of me. He's a much brighter man than I am now. But for me, the answer to robustness. So some of the best players I've ever trained, and I had the pleasure of working with Peter O'Mahony from Munster Rugby, and he was robust. I use a different sport now, and I have to use a different sport for an analogy here, simply because I also was in college with Juliet Murphy, the All-Ireland superstar Hall of Famer from Cork. She was in college doing the same course as me, and she was robust. So when she was in college, she was playing college football, Cork County football, playing for Enniscarra or Gypsy, I think, where she was from. She was playing basketball for Ireland, basketball for the college, and doing her weight training every week. So for me, robustness, first of all, is mindset. And I think we've a great challenge nowadays, and I don't want to sound like an old codger here. I'm 46 next month. I know you wouldn't believe it, salt and pepper. The kids now are not doing what we done growing up, and I don't want to sound like an old codger, because I didn't do what my dad done growing up. But like, they're being driven everywhere. They're not cycling anywhere. We have to build robustness artificially, unfortunately. So we have to get them moving, doing things that they don't do. So like a kid playing intercounty minor tonight might be in school all day, sitting at a desk, being driven to training or driving to training, wherever they are in school or college, and then expected to go out and perform on a hurling pitch or a football pitch or a camogie pitch. So it's never too early to start. And I think robustness is built through movement. As you grow, and growth to maturation is a huge area of speciality for me and interest for me. As we grow up, as we develop, our limbs and everything changes, we lose movement qualities. And it doesn't matter if we're playing sport or not, we still lose those qualities. My thing for robustness is movement quality and recovery. The first thing about building robustness is movement quality and recovery, and then strength. If you're not strong, you're not robust. So when I say strong, it mightn't be a double body weight back squat. It might be like Jason said there, it might be the ability to decelerate with a band. You can start that from 12, 13, 14, and it doesn't take a lot of work. Those little pictures I showed, the little videos I showed of the girls in RFIN and GAA jumping and landing on one leg is going to build robustness in their knees, ankles and hips if they continue to practice this. And it can be started at any age. Robustness also requires recovery. It's not like a piece of steel. So I'm interested in engineering as well, because physical performance is the engineering of the human body. If you hit a piece of steel hard enough for long enough, it becomes what they call work hardened. It just gets used to being hit. The steel doesn't change shape. The body isn't like that. In the old days, you could go hammer them with load, hammer them with training. You can't now. So sometimes robustness is just backing off a bit. Today, okay, you played basketball in school today, and you're coming out here to do 2 hours camogie or hurling. Okay, well, how are you feeling? Good. Okay, let's go. Robustness starts at every age. Literally, it's keeping movement quality, movement skills as they grow and mature, and fuel, plenty of fuel. Just eat everything in sight. Your body needs to recover to build robustness. So robustness is adaptability. It's weathering the storm. Jason, over to you on this one.
No, you had a lot there. Like the big one there that you mentioned at the very end is recovery. So the big thing, like like everything else, is like we had called building that chronic load up and getting a good chronic load built up, and that's about moving and keep adding to it and keep adding to it. But also the other side of that is it's also get that in recovery to go again, and the players that can keep that high chronic load up and stay on the field and keep going, they're the players are going to be building that robustness as well. That just doesn't go for just for the pitch. That goes for the gym as well, and keeping that robustness in the gym, that strength built up as the season goes along is the is the key, is the trick. When you're going to be needing most. So that's
Okay. Excellent, very good. Another question from me here, and I'll start this with yourself, Jason. So, my question is, what you do in Kerry in the academies and the examples that you gave there are hugely impressive. Okay, so can you see a club implementing a version of what you do in Kerry in terms of that player academy? Should we be scared of it? Is it possible? So that player that you had there that was doing that contrast training, like what age was that player? How long did it take the player to master those hang snatches and all of that? Should we be really scared of that, or should we chase that as a club?
Good question, Jack. At the minute, we're trying to make inwards to the clubs, and the big thing around the clubs is no different than we're with our talented academies or our development squad coaches or minors and 20 managers, is that we want to get out to the clubs and start educating the clubs around what we're doing, around what we're kind of looking at different levels where the athlete should be at different points on the athlete's career. But we're building up like a bank of fundamental movement exercises that we will try to get roll out within the clubs and the schools, and utilize like a platform like RYPT. You don't have to go into using everything we're using at minor or development squad or 20, but start off simply by utilizing like a platform where every exercise has got a video and it's coaching cued, and that the athlete can, and like even the coach at that F3, that parent can simply look at the video, look at the exercise we're trying to teach, and run out a simple warm up, or bring into a gym or Paudie showing there that they're starting to move with broomsticks, and start developing something like that, like it's around how they move as opposed to trying to think about strength and being all about weights. But no, I don't think they should be scared of it. Some of them, you seen the athlete at the very first one was a 14. The guys that were doing like the cleans were 16, and then the lad at the very end was 19, 20. So it's like you're constantly learning it as they go along.
Very good. Very good. I have a question for you, Paudie, to finish up. I think there are many, many examples of this across our games. So I've wrote it down here: a talented player playing across multiple environments, maybe even multiple sports, could possibly be a dual player, okay? Playing in high-performing schools, committed to the club, probably in an academy, could have different priorities clashing at the same time of the year. What's the best player-centered approach to make sure that player reaches their full potential in that very intense period of their age? Yeah.
That's a great question. That's why I'm not the top talented player right now. I got burnt out from too many challenges like that. No, sorry, crap banter there. I've seen it in so many even elite academies. You've got a scholarship in your school, so you're playing in your school. You're playing up a year in your school. You're probably playing hurling and football in your school, and because you're very good at that, then you're probably playing up a level in your club. The biggest thing there for me is communication. It's nothing to do with strength and conditioning. I had this very conversation. That is a phenomenal question, and it's such a normal. It's actually probably very common right now, is it? It's a phenomenal question, and I don't say that lightly because this is where the performance hat comes on. And so performance is more than we've talked today and tonight about strength, power, speed, deceleration, all these things, and recovery. So for that young player, it's about communication and recovery. It's not about development. It's not about trying to physically develop a quality or do more stretching or do more. That is the club coach needs to talk to the school coach needs to talk to the parent needs to tell everyone what's going on. For me, massive communication. Even at the elite Arsenal Academy, we had elite boys in 4 nights a week training and playing at the weekend. Sometimes they come out of school for a whole day. They come into me in the evening. They've travelled across London for 90 minutes and they come in and I go, okay, you okay? They go, no, we played 2 hours of soccer today in the school because their scholarship is the school. My job then is, what do I do here? Do I go, okay, well, this is Arsenal, or this is Munster, or this is Kerry, or this is Tipperary. You have to do our work tonight. Or you go, okay, I'm going to back off on you in my section here. I'm going to speak to the coach and go, listen, Jason's coming in here today, Rory's coming in here today, they're hanging out. Their legs are hanging off them. They've had a schools game today. We know they're in a private school, or they're in a scholarship school, or they're played up 2 years. Like, so my job then is to go, okay, tonight we're reducing training a little bit. We're getting our work done with you that we need to get done with you as the club. So for me, it's communication. How do we get those players through? It is communication between the club, the school, the county, the codes. I had this exact conversation. Part of my work I done with a club in Dublin recently that I spoke about offline earlier was a dad had reached out because he said his daughter literally, she's 15, literally plays camogie on this pitch. The soccer club is attached to the club. She does 90 minutes of soccer here, or 90 minutes of camogie, and then she goes across and does 90 minutes of soccer straight off the back of a school day in the same area, and she's going to get burnt out. I was like going, okay, well, you need to communicate to each other and go, just letting you know, she's running across the pitch here to play soccer now, and she loves both. We don't want her to stop doing camogie or hurling. She also does Irish dancing in school. We don't want her to stop that. So what do? We communicate. For me, that sounds very easy. Jason, you might row in on this one. For me, I'm sure Jason, you have it with intercounty, like players coming from dual codes, up a year, down a year, selected for camp, this not selected for the next camp, travelling across the country because they might work in Dublin. They're coming to you in Kerry to train. For me, it's communication, and often it's not about what work you do; it's about the work you don't do. It's about checking in, going, okay, what can we do tonight to reduce stress on this human being? Because they're all stresses, and the nature of the Gaelic Games athlete is a very unique nature from my own, and I've worked across many countries with different sports. The Gaelic Games athlete is so committed and so passionate. They will not want to show weakness. They will not want to go, no, I'm not training with Kerry tonight, or I'm not training with Tipperary tonight, or I'm not training with the hurling tonight because I played football today. I'm going in there, I'm fine. Sometimes it's just back off a little bit.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Great answer.
But that's for the coaches, and that's where, sorry to cut across you, and that's where the communication with the head coach and the coaching staff is key. That you go, okay, we want this lad or girl ready for the weekend for a game. Tonight they're doing nothing, or they're doing more.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
So sometimes, from my own personal perspective, is that we also want this, if it's very, very player centered and we're adding to the player, not pulling from the player. We don't want this player very, very busy at 18 we want this player still playing at 28. That's what we want and
That's a
beyond.
mass.
So
That's a massive one, Jack. And I didn't have it on these slides now, but I had another slide on this that I should have probably put in about the player-centered approach. And like the modern player, whether they're amateur, professional, or whatever they are, they're surrounded by an ecosystem. It's like a honeycomb of a beehive. They've got parents, relationships, work, nutrition, strength and conditioning, and it's all load. We forget about the mental load and the pressure. And I'm not saying we should be soft on players, but I'm saying sometimes we forget about so in my profession, I want my pound of flesh. I want them to get stronger. I want them to get fitter. I want to get more powerful. Jason wants them to get more powerful and stronger. Like as a coach, you want them to be technically better on the left side, on the right side, understand the game better. All this load is there. So sometimes we need to communicate to go, okay, what's the load today? And some of my best recovery methods in top teams has been stay at home today. You're not coming in. Just stay at home. You're not coming in today.
yeah,
And the coaches lose their heads over this. But they can come in, they can do the bike, they can do the ice baths. I don't know. They just don't need to be here today. I don't need to be here today. I'm overloaded. And
yeah,
that's a great question. And the robustness thing is sometimes doing less.
yeah,
I'm gonna LeBron James. I love basketball. I love different sports, and I was in America recently for a conference, and I happened to meet someone who had worked with him, and this guy is still playing now because of what he doesn't do. He doesn't do all the practices. He's not because he's the best in the world. He doesn't. He just body can't. He doesn't do it. He doesn't do all the training sessions, but he's there on game day every single game. So it's sometimes less is more, more is less.
yeah. You anything to add to that, Jason? Have you had
No, that's
players?
body I'll rip it to it there. So no,
It's
it's all
difficult,
there,
isn't
like
it?
it's all there. It's like communication's key. And it's hard, especially with the amateur athlete coming in to a training session like that there, but utilizing like something simple like a ripped or a questionnaire is how are you feeling today? And it's hard sometimes to get a complete 100% buy-in, but if you can get 75, 80, 85, 90% of the athletes filling in that simple question a day before they come in to you, well then you can prioritize some of the ways that might need that that question or that bit of chat to as soon as they walk in. And
Yeah.
that's all about communication.
I think from my own experience, lads, and we can finish it here. From my own experience, the value of your observation skills, your ability to interpret cues, your ability to have a relationship with players, that is probably one of the key fundamental skills of coaching, so that it allows you, there's a thing called professional judgment and decision making, PJDM. It just informs that so that you can make a decision that's best for the player. So that's my tuppence worth. Can I just share very, very quickly something with the group here? It'll just take 20 seconds. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see that there?
Yep.
Yeah. So just for those coaches on the line, I just wanted to bring your attention to next week's webinar. It's on next Wednesday. We have two expert skill acquisition lecturers and practitioners, both working in UL, Phil Carney and Ian Sherwin, and they're doing a brilliant presentation on giving effective feedback using the tactful model. And my own experience, feedback as a coach can be the most hardest thing to do. So they're on next week, 7:30, be on for an hour thereabouts, give or take. You can see there, the tactful model is all based on, as a coach, the timing of your feedback, how you approach it, the content, the tone, the follow-up, and so on. Really, really looking forward to it. And that's That is webinar number 8 of 15. And there is just a highlight of some of the other webinars that are on following that. So finally, huge thank you to Paudie and to Jason. Thank you so much, lads. We're gone a wee bit over. I'd sit here and talk and listen and ask questions for the whole night. Thanks, Rory, as well from RYPT. We now have RYPT almost extensively with all our counties, and it's available for our counties, and it's been used right across in both hurling and football, and it's a huge part of player development within our academy squads. So thank you very much also to all the coaches who stayed on. Sorry we're going a wee bit over. Hope you got great value out of that. And a big thank you again to Paudie and to Jason and to Rory. And we'll see you all in the future with the help of God. Thank you very much.
No
Cheers,
bother, lads.
Guys.
Cheers, lads.
Thank
Talk
you.
to you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, lads.